Here's a section of the deck that I cut out. This is behind the operator's station on my Bucyrus Erie 10B. It's all pretty well cut out, roughed out for the new piece to go in. And on the other side, I'll show you that I have the other side cut out. Okay, here's the other side by the toolbox. Got this all cut out where it was rotted away just like on the other. So I cut all the way back to that point there and cut along this edge. And inside I have the rough cut pieces replacement. Here's the rough cut piece for the section behind the operator station. And this is the piece that'll go by where the toolbox is on the opposite side of the machine. This is a sketch that I made of the deck pieces that I was cutting out. Before I cut anything out, I made this sketch and showed where all the cutouts are going to be, how big the pieces need to be. It's where it's notched, and just basically the part that is going to go in there. I'm working on the panel that's behind the operator station on my 10B shovel. First marking out this rectangular shape that is where a linkage goes through the panel, so it needs like a rectangular shape, and getting that marked out. I'm using masking tape on this. It makes it easy to mark, and if I make a mistake, I just pull the masking tape up and start over again, or put a new piece over top of this. It makes so you have nice clean lines to follow. Okay, now I want to have a radius in here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset this line to a center point. I'm going to use a hole saw, and I'm going to cut 4 circles out, and then where this line meets the radius, I'll mark it out and cut that out with a cutoff wheel. I have all the holes, and the cutout is marked out. The holes that are going to mount it to the chassis, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit this piece into the body of the crane, and then I'm going to use a transfer punch from the bottom up, and I'll mark those 3 bolt holes so I can get them exactly where they are. But basically I'm just going to take and mark these center points with a center punch, so it makes it easy for the drill to start. I'm going to mark this center point for these holes I'm going to drill to create the radiuses. That's ready to be taken over to the milling machine to get the holes drilled and on to the next step. First 2 holes for this cutout are completed, so now I'm going to drill the next 2 with the hole saw, just showing you how I like to cut things with the hole saw. It works good. And I'm just going to go. hole is complete, just try to get this insert out. It can be trying sometimes. Well, I'll get that in a minute, but the next thing I want to do is take and go down to meet that other radius. I'm ready to cut the next radius. The only thing left to do is to cut this opening out, finish it up. The nice thing about this is you can do this cutouts using just a drill press, and just use a cutoff wheel and cut it out, and you got a nice radius cornered cutout. A little bit of cleanup on the ends and side a little bit, and you got a nice cutout. The pieces that get cut out of them with the hole saw, I usually save those pieces because they make good washers or spacers, and they're nice and round, and you just bore the inner hole. It's 1/4 inch with the hole saw arbor. Pour it to whatever size you need for the bolt. To rebuild this pivot point and this stop, I just bought a piece of 1 1/8 shaft stock, 3 inches long, comes up almost exactly the right length, and then just a 1 1/8 shaft collar for this piece here. For this stop, I just bought a piece of 5/8 inch shaft stock, and I just need to trim it down to the right size, and then it'll be ready to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is drill this hole for the cotter key in this piece, and then I'll weld that onto the replacement panel that's behind the operator's seat. I have my panels all cut to size. Now what I want to do is transfer, there's 3 holes, 1/2 inch holes that I want to transfer to this plate. So what I'm going to do is take this transfer punch, it's 1/2 inch diameter with a little point on it. I'm just going to go from the bottom side, locate where the hole is coming up from the bottom, and just put a little tap on it in 3 places, and hopefully that'll transfer the mark. I'll also take a Sharpie, go in the same location, put a mark there to kind of hopefully accent that a little bit. Go the next one in, find it where it's at. There. And finally the last one, all the way up in there. Take the Sharpie on these other spots. Try to put something, mark the accent it a little bit. And that should be marked. I have 3 good center marks, one here, one here, and one here. I'm not sure if you can see them, but I'm just going to make them a little more pronounced with another center punch. Now I'll take this shop and drill press and drill these out for a 1/2 inch clearance hole for the bolt. I have the 3 holes that are going to mount the plate in. They're all drilled to size. Now I have this section of the linkage that I need to weld in, pieces that were on the bottom. So I'm going to tack those in now. Ready to go into the crane. Got the linkage done, so this is ready to go. And I got seen the holes were done from before, so we're ready. Okay, ready to set this in. Bolts to help line it. Have the plate in. All I got to do is connect the linkage for the trip with this, and the linkage that was on this piece that's underneath here. Get that linkage connected up, and then I'm going to weld this piece in. Okay, I'm going to install the linkage for the trip mechanism for the bucket, trip to bucket. I'm just going to guess where it needs to be. I'll come back and adjust it when I get everything together, but for now I just leave it here. pin in underneath and got a pin. All the linkages is connected back. So the next stage is going to be welding this plate in. So I won't show that, but I'm going to weld that in next. And then the block that goes here to support this shaft was badly rusted, some of the support of it. So I want to make that piece next. I'll show that, and then re-welding it to the block that goes onto here. And then once that is done, this side will be complete. Then we'll go over to the other side of the machine and finish the other panel. Working on getting this metal off the back of this shaft support. The back metal was pretty well rusted away, but I decided I want to keep this block. So I've just been using the torch and the cutoff wheel and trying to cut off pieces of this. And then this will be the new piece that takes the place of that to support that. I have the block tied to the, or clamped down to the backing plate and square it up. So I'm going to just put a couple tack welds on it before I drill the hole in the backup plate. I'm using a 3/8 inch diameter hole saw to put the hole in this plate, and I'm using the block as a guide. So I'll take the hole saw and take it into the hole, and using that as a guide, drill the hole in the backup plate. I have the hole completed through. I'll take this off the clamps. You can see how it came out. Not too bad of a hole. You can see it, but looks fairly clean. Okay, the part's set in place, looks pretty good. I'm gonna degrease it, clean it up a little bit, and then finish welding the block to this plate. And then I'll be welding this onto this patch panel. Doing a fit check to make sure everything sits right before I weld this in. I'll first tack these two places here somewhere to hold it, and then take that arm out of the way so I can weld that plate down to the deck. The drawing's starting to look kind of bad, but I can still read pretty much everything on it. So this will be the second panel replace. Here's the second panel I'm going to replace. I got it all cut out. I'm going to have to make a half circle here to complete this circle, and then there's another bolt that I think I'm going to need to have a clearance for. The piece that was in here was so rusted out I couldn't tell what kind of clearance it was, but I'm just going to assume it's another radius like there. I want to try to line everything up for the pin for the toolbox. So the rest of the toolbox is in here. You can see pieces and parts of it, and I'll rebuild that at a later time. This shaft support, I've got it cut out, but I need to cut this bottom area out from the plate where I torched basically free from the panel, but now all I gotta do is cut that thickness of the metal out. And this will be a little bit bigger panel, but one other thing that I did is when I make my panels, or when I cut out for a panel, I try to cut it out close to a radius, so you get all the support of the radius. You don't, the further you are out into the panel, the more it can flex. But as you get close to this radius, the metal's real strong. I don't usually try to cut into the radius, but there's some right on the edge of the radius, and that way it won't distort the metal plate that you're putting into it. You just have to watch this area here to distort in or out, so you got to be real careful on that. I have the second patch panel is cut to the basic shape. Now I need to mark out the cutouts and mark out where the mounting holes are going to be to mount this down. For the three that are over here, they're down kind of deep in there, so you have these standoffs to space off that distance between. So I'm gonna have to use something special, additional piece on my transfer punch to get those holes straight up from the bottom. These two holes are right out of that plate. This hole I just have to mark around, and then that other clearance hole, whatever it's going to be for the bolt here. Didn't do too good a job cutting this out, so I'm going to have to put some filler pieces of metal in this area here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark all this out using masking tape where it's at, because I have a good reference point from the edge here to mark everything out in this edge here. So I'm going to start doing that, and then I'll get back with you. Now, to keep the marked hole for the toolbox latch pin, what I did is cut a clearance hole in this 2x3, and I'm just going to set this in here, and then I'm going to take the transfer punch and put that in the hole. That will hold the transfer punch perpendicular, so when I strike it, it'll be perfectly aligned with the other hole that's underneath, or the toolbox latch area. For the other holes that are here that are as standoffs that are used to stand off from this other edge of this C channel, I have another hole in here. It's a 1/2 inch diameter for the transfer punch, and I'll transfer those up. Have all the holes cut in this floor panel. Next thing I want to do is build this new access cover door. Best I can see is it did go right here, and what I'm going to do is take part of the hinge with no holes in it, and I'm going to put that hinge here, but I need to put something under here, as the other part had something to space this up so the hinge lays flat. So I'm going to cut a small piece also to go there for this to lay on. I have the cover and the spacer finished for this access hole. First thing I'm going to do is I'll weld this down first, the spacer, and then I'll get this cover in position and the hinge. I left a 1/2 inch all around this. What appeared the original part looked like it had about a 1/2 inch area around this little spacer block to the hinge. Have the cover all welded on, and it hinges up. So this is ready to go in to the crane now. Have the plate in, everything seems to be working good. This cover works fine. My next step is going to be cutting this bottom off of this block. That's the rest of the original deck plate that was on this. Is I cut that off, and then I want to tack this in. I don't think I'm gonna weld it up yet, but I'm going to just tack it in. I'm going to cut this piece off the bottom now. Use just a cutoff wheel and just cut right along that line, trying not to take too much of the metal off of here, trying to just get the base metal off of it. Have this shaft support block is all done. Kind of smoothed it up and got the rest of that metal off the bottom up from the previous deck plate. This will go right here. Lift this up just a little bit, and it sits right here. The plate's still a little bit warm from grinding. That's where it's going to go. So they just weld it up here across the bottom, and going to end this video right here. Next thing I'm going to do is start to remove the sheet metal by taking the roof off first, and then I'll be taking the sides off. And after that, I plan on bringing the machine into the shop to clean up all the mechanical parts and stuff that are rusted on this bottom part of the machine, the deck, and the undercarriage. And after that, I'll start working on either the boom or the sheet metal. I mean, not the boom, I mean the shovel front.